Hello, children, again, it's Meleena. Today I am about to explain the story A Different Kind of School by E.V. Lucas from Honeysuckle Class-6 Standard Book. So let's start. But before jumping onto the story, let's go through the before you read section. It says, do you know these words? If you don't, find out their meanings. Bandage, crutch, cripple, honor, misfortune, system. I will tell you the meanings of these words after reading the story. Look at the pictures in this unit and guess in what way this school may be different from other schools. A school is a place where we make friends, attend lectures, where knowledge is imparted to us. Some schools provide many facilities, whereas some schools provide not many facilities. This story is on a school where life lessons are taught, and that not many schools provide such teaching on life lessons. Today, we are about to read a school that teaches on the values of life. Also, this school in the story teaches the pleasures on such life values to students so that they understand clearly about it. Now let's move on with the story. I had heard a great deal about Miss Beam's school, but not till last week did the chance come to visit it. The narrator wanted to visit the school, but he couldn't get the chance to visit the school the week before last week. And he heard that the principal of the school was Miss Beam and also wanted to observe the great things that are going around in that school. Also, he wanted to observe what is different from other schools and in Miss Beam's school. When I arrived there was no one in sight but a girl of about 12. When he reached the school, he saw no one was to be seen except a 12 years old girl was seen. Her eyes were covered with a bandage and she was being led carefully between the flower beds by a little boy who was about 4 years younger. That girl's eyes were covered with cloth strip called bandage, and about 4 years younger boy was giving direction to her between flower beds. She stopped, and it looked like she asked him who had come. When she stopped, and suddenly she asked whether there's anyone that had come to the boy. It felt because she felt like someone is present here. Sometimes we catch through sense organs if anything's happening around us. And she also understood as usual like anyone else. He seemed to be describing me to her. He started describing about the narrator's appearance to the girl, such as his height and look, clothes. Then they passed on. Miss Beam was all that I had expected, middle aged, full of authority, yet kindly and understanding. The narrator expected exactly it was. She was middle aged, which is around 40 to 45 years of age. She was powerful, full of power, and was in charge of the school. Still, she was friendly and understanding. Her hair was beginning to turn grey, and she had the kind of plump figure that is likely to be comforting to a homesick child. In this line, the narrator is giving the physical features of the principal, Miss Beam, that her hair was turning grey, she was not even fat and not even thin, and was a bit fat. Here, the word plum means pleasantly fat. She had chubby cheeks. In terms of look, she gave some positive and comforting vibes through her figure. I asked her some questions about her teaching methods, which I had heard was simple. He went to ask very curious questions to her. that how she teaches to children and which methods she follows. He heard that the teaching methods were simple and understanding, no more than is needed to help them to learn how to do things. Simple spelling, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and writing. Whatever is needed for them to learn how to do things, it's done simply. Simple spelling, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and writing. The rest is done by reading to them and by interesting talks. The principal, Miss Beam, said to the narrator that the rest is done through reading to them by talking in interesting ways, during which they have to sit still and keep their hands quiet. During the teaching time, they have to sit with their hands still and keep their hands in well-mannered way. There are practically no other lessons. There are no other lessons than this in the school. In this school, they are doing great job as they aren't giving extra work and burden to students. And these days where you are studying, there's so much of studies around the school that there's so much of burden on all of you. The real aim of the school is not so much to teach thought as to teach thoughtfulness, kindness to others, and being responsible citizens. Look out of the window a minute, will you? Miss Beam told the narrator that her purpose was that not to so much teach thoughts, but to teach to consider the needs of other people. Suppose you have done higher studies in particular field, but you don't have kindness for others, then truly are you a good human being? She teaches to be dutiful citizens in her school. She asks the narrator to look outside of the window. I went to the window, which overlooked a large garden and a playground at the back. What do you see? Miss B asked. He went to the window but couldn't see clearly. Yet he noticed a large garden and a big playground at the back. Then Miss Beam asked, that what do you see? I see some very beautiful grounds, I said, and a lot of jolly children. He saw very beautiful grounds and crowded with jolly children. It pains me, though, to see that they are not all so healthy and active looking. It hurts. Or he was feeling sorrowful, the narrator who was feeling sorrowful towards some of the children who were looking anemic and not active. When I came in, I saw one poor little girl being led about. When he entered, first, then he saw a little girl being led by a boy showing the right direction to walk. Now she has some trouble with her eyes. The girl had some trouble with her eyes. Now I can see two more with the same difficulty. When the narrator was looking down, he got two more children who were suffering from the same difficulty. They had bandage on their eyes and were not able to see properly. And there's a girl with a crutch watching the others at play. The narrator saw another child with a difficulty, and that was a little girl with a crutch. A crutch is a long wooden stick with a cross piece at the top, which stays under armpit and helps while walking, as she watched other children playing. She seems to be a hopeless cripple. She looked like an unfortunate girl who seemed to have wanted to play but couldn't as she was a cripple. A cripple is a person suffering from the difficulty of not being able to walk. Miss Beam laughed. Oh no, she said, she is not really lame. This is only her lame day. Miss Beam laughed at the narrator, saying that, oh no, It's actually her lame day. She was not really lame, but she was acting to be lame. And the fact that she could walk. The others are not blind either. It is only their blind day. Also, the others were not blind. They were just showing off as if they were playing the role of a blind person. They were playing the role, actually, they were playing the role of a blind person here, and it was their just blind day. I must have looked very surprised, for she laughed again. Miss Beam laughed again at the narrator's surprised face. This is a very important part of our system. So here Miss Beam says to the narrator that whatever is taught in the school, it is important as a part of the education system that they provide in Miss Beam's school. She further adds, to make our children appreciate and understand misfortune, we make them share in misfortune too. So here what she says, children, here she says that in this way Miss Beam wants to make the children understand, realize, and appreciate that what misfortune is, and to make them really deeply understand that the children or the ones which are misfortunate uh, are the ones like those who don't get good schooling, don't get good food, they don't get good education system, they're not provided with good education system, they are disabled, they suffer from certain disabilities. So though they are all they come under the category of misfortunate people, while comparing to the ones that are fortunate, like those who get good schooling in a very good condition, they get everything in a good condition in terms of schooling, in terms of food, in terms of housing, and in terms of, and they're in fact very able bodied, they're able to walk, hear, listen, talk. So those are fortunate. But at the same time, the ones which are fortunate should be very thankful for their asset and should be very pleased, delighted, and being very thankful to God that God has bestowed on them such fortunate things, and just to learn from them that what misfortune is from their daily life. Each term, every child has one blind day, one lame day, one deaf day, one injured day, and one dumb day. So here, Miss Beam, what she says to the narrator, in order to understand misfortune more in a more deeply manner, she says that they share the situation among the students to understand what's it's like not being able to walk, see, or hear, and to appreciate misfortune as well. What it's like being going through the pain and being thankful also at the same time. So that is why, for this reason, they for every term, there every child has one blind day, one lame day, one deaf day, one injured day, and one dumb day. During the blind day, their eyes are bandaged absolutely, and they are on their honor not to peep. So here, the Miss Bean, the principal of the school, says to the narrator that on the blind day they are tightly bandaged around the eyes, so that, and they're trusted on top of that, children, just imagine, they're all trusted not to peep through the bandage. Once the bandage is tied tightly to around the eyes of the students, they are not expected to peep at all, and they're trusted even on the fact that they won't peep, not even once. The bandage is put on overnight so they wake up blind. This means that they need help with everything. So at night, the particular child who is about to experience the blind day is tied with the bandage so that in the morning they feel like a blind person and they wake up blind. Let's see what she says ahead. Other children are given the duty of helping them and leading them about. So this means they will be required for help in every way. On the other hand, the other children are assigned with the work of leading and helping them about. Other children, as is said in this line, other children are given the duty of helping them and leading them about. They all learn so much this way, both the blind and the helpers. And what she says, that here together the blind and the helpers are benefited. It's the best of both of the worlds. Both the helpers and the blinds and the help and the blind, the person who is blind gets help, and they learn and they get the opportunity to learn a lot about from it. There is no misery about it, Miss Beam continued. So here, children, what did Miss Beam say? That there is no misery about it means it was there was nothing so discomforting or very something which is very uncomfortable about it. She continued saying to the narrator, everyone is very kind and it is really something of a game. What she said was that everyone in the school, every student in her school was very kind. They're very kind to each other. Every student is very kind to each other. And it is something like a game. It was something of like a game for every student in the school. And what was like something of a game? To experience misfortune. Before the day is over, though, even the most thoughtless child realizes what misfortune is. So here, Miss Beam, what she says to the narrator listens quietly to Miss Beam as she continued saying that before the school or the day gets over in her school, even the most thoughtless child in the school who is not more thankful to God or who doesn't understand much or who is careless, a careless child, even a careless child can understand, can deeply understand what misfortune is. They get a feeling of that, the students, they get a feeling of misfortune through playing such situations in the school, like for example, the blind day, the dumb day, the injured day, what they actually teach, they misfortune. So that every child realizes what misfortune is through those days, experiencing those days and playing it just like a game. They play it just like a game in the school. The teachers and all, they come with togetherness, and the students as well. The teachers, they also make the students feel like they as if they're in an interesting way. They make them feel as if they're playing this kind of game through their teaching methods, which are very simple as earlier mentioned. The blind day is of course really the worst, but some of the children tell me that the dumb day is the most difficult. So here, children, what does Miss Beam say to the narrator? That the blind day is really difficult to describe through act. But some of the children told Miss Beam that the dumb day is also a difficult day like other days, but the blind day is the worst of all days. We cannot bandage the children's mouths, so they really have to exercise their willpower. Here, the children, what does Miss Beam try to say? That the children's mouths cannot be bandaged, so they have to put their willpower into practice. Then, if someone makes them talk or laugh, they have to resist that. Come into the garden and see for yourself how the children feel about it. And then, what did Miss Beam say to the narrator? She told the narrator to visit the garden and see for himself how the children feel about it. Miss Beam led me to one of the bandaged girls. So here, children, what did Miss Beam do? She led the narrator to one of the girls who had her blind day. Here's a gentleman come to talk to you, said Miss Beam and left us. Miss Beam said to the girl that there's a gentleman who had come to talk to her, and then she left the narrator with the girl. Don't you ever peep? I asked the girl. So here, the narrator was asked by the girl that did she ever peep? Oh no, she exclaimed. That would be cheating, but I had no idea it was so awful to be blind. So here the girl exclaimed to the narrator, saying, "Oh no!" And these days had taught her to be honest, and due to which the teachers in Miss Beam's school trusted the students so much. She further added, saying that that could be cheating to keep, and she never thought that it was extremely bad to be blind. It gave her a bad and a disgusting feeling. You can't see a thing. The girl continued saying that on blind day she cannot see a thing. You feel you're going to be hit by something every moment, and she gets a feeling on blind day that she will be being hit by something or the other. It's such a relief just to sit down. The easiest thing on blind days just to sit down, as you won't be hit by something. Are your helpers kind to you? I asked. The narrator then asked the girl that whether the helpers in her school are kind to her. Fairly, but they are not as careful as I shall be when it is my turn. So here the girl says to the narrator that the helpers are not exactly so much careful, but when it is her turn, she will surely be very careful with others. Those that have been blind already are the best helpers. And she further continues saying that those who have gone through the blind days are the best helpers. It is because they have gone through the pain of being a blind person. They have acted and showed off being a blind person compared to the ones who hadn't gone through the blind days. It's perfectly ghastly not to see. I wish you did try. Shall I lead you anywhere? I asked. It's very scary not to see anything, and the girl wished the narrator to try this someday. The narrator then replied, saying that, can he lead her anywhere? Oh, yes, she said. Let's go for a little walk. She said, oh, yes, let's go for a little walk, the girl to the narrator. Only you must tell me about things. She told the narrator to tell her about things what's going on around her. I shall be so glad when today is over. And she further added, saying that she would be very happy and glad if her blind day is over. The other bad days can't be half as bad as this. The other bad days, here she actually means that the other bad days can't be even half as bad as this. It can't be worse than these days. Having a leg tied up and hopping about on a crutch is almost fun, I guess. And she says, on lame day, one leg is tied up and crutch are provided, and that one has to hop on one leg. So it feels like fun, like a game. Having an arm tied up is a bit more troublesome. Now, but on injured day, it's problematic when arm is tied up because you can't eat without help and things like that. Because you cannot do many things without hand. But again, you're forced to depend on someone else. I don't think I'll mind being deaf for a day, at least not much. The girl continued saying that she doesn't mind being deaf for a day. And so on this day, she can pretend not to listen to anyone, and it's like a fun for her, and she feels like it's fun, and it is not that difficult as well. But being blind is so frightening. But being blind is so much panicking. My head aches all the time just from worrying that I will get hurt. All the time, only one thing troubles her head is the fear of falling down anywhere. Where are we now? The little girl then asks the narrator that where are they now? In the playground, I said. We are walking towards the house. The narrator replied to the girl that they were in the playground and walking towards the house. Miss Beam is walking up and down the garden with the tall girl. Miss Beam is roaming here and there in the garden with a tall girl. What is the girl wearing? My little friend asked. A blue cotton skirt and a pink blouse. The girl asked the narrator that what the tall girl was wearing, and in response, she was said by the narrator that she was wearing a blue cotton skirt and a pink blouse. I think it's Millie, she said. What color is her hair? The girl then said that she thought it was Millie and asked what her hair color was. Very light, I said. Yes, that's Millie, she's the head girl. The narrator then replied, saying to her that her hair color was very light, and in response, the girl said to the narrator that yes, assuring the narrator that yes, she was Millie and she was the head girl in her school. There's an old man tying up roses, I said. The narrator who was the narrator then said that there's an old man tying up roses, who was tying up roses. Yes, that's Peter, he's the gardener. He's hundreds of years old. The girl replied, yes, she knows him, and his name is Peter. He's the gardener and he's very old, and his age is about 100. And here comes a girl with curly red hair. She's on crutches. The narrator then said that here comes a girl with curly red hair, and she's on her crutches, and it was her lame day. That's Anita, she said. Okay, the girl on crutches was Anita, the girl said to the narrator. And so we walked on. Gradually, I discovered that I was 10 times more thoughtful than I ever thought I could be. So here, the narrator Evie Lucas and the girl walked on. But the narrator discovered that he became more thoughtful 10 times more than he was when he entered the school in the beginning of the story. I also realized that if I had to describe people and things to someone else, it made them more interesting to me. So, here, children, what the narrator conveys to all of you, he says that he realizes that describing things to people had become very interesting for him, and and that moment was very interesting for him when he was describing things to the girl who was who went on who was actually experiencing her blind day. When I finally had to leave, I told Miss Beam that I was very sorry to go. When he was about to return back home, he was feeling unhappy about it. He wanted to stay there further. The narrator. Ah, she replied. Then there's something in my system after all. Miss Beam then told the narrator that surely there is something interesting in her education system in the school that bounds him to stay there further, and and thus made him feel very sorry about going back home. So here, this is the end of my explanation of this chapter. Really, I enjoyed like the narrator, and I hope you too, children. And I'm sure you will watch this video again and again. Thank you and bye all.